The stellar cartography vessel, Magellan, drifted silently through the void, its sensors probing the darkness of unexplored space. Captain Sarah Chin stood at the bridge viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the massive structure that had appeared on their long-range scanners 3 days ago. After 20 years of deep space exploration, humans had finally found definitive proof of advanced alien civilization. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. James Morrison, the ship's xenoarchaeologist. The structure before them defied conventional architecture, a massive geometric web of crystalline platforms and interconnected spheres, stretching nearly the size of Earth's moon. Pulses of soft blue light traced patterns through its framework, suggesting active power systems. "And it's still operating," added Lieutenant Kira Rodriguez from her station at Ops. "Energy readings are consistent with a maintained facility, not a derelict." Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, collecting data that would make her great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren wealthy from the patents alone. The bridge crew fell silent as a beam of light suddenly emerged from the structure, scanning their vessel from bow to stern. Captain Chin straightened her uniform, a habit from years of stellar command training. "Well, looks like they've noticed us. Everyone remember your first contact protocols." The response came not as anyone expected. Rather than a transmission or a defensive response, a section of the structure transformed, plates shifting and realigning to create what was unmistakably a docking port sized perfectly for their vessel. "That's impossible," Morrison breathed. "The structure just reconfigured itself based on our ship's specifications. The computational power required." "More importantly," Chin interrupted, "it's an invitation." "Kira, what's your analysis?" Rodriguez's dark fingers flew over her console. "No signs of weapons activation. The docking port appears to be generating a compatible atmosphere." "Captain, I think it's a library." Morrison nearly jumped out of his chair. "The ancient repository. It matches descriptions in 15 different alien myths we've collected. A vast database of galactic knowledge, maintained by artificial intelligence, open to any spacefaring civilization that discovers it." Chin allowed herself a small smile. "First contact was about to become first research grant. Take us in, hum." Nice and easy. The Magellan glided toward the docking port with precision that would make its namesake explorer proud. As they connected, the structure's lights pulsed faster, and a soft chime echoed through the ship's corridors. "Welcome, species designation, human," a melodious voice spoke through their communications system in perfect English. "I am Arya, Autonomous Repository Information Assistant. According to first contact protocols established 47,283 local solar cycles ago, I am required to grant you access to non-restricted sections of the Galactic Library." Chin exchanged glances with her crew. The AI's tone carried an odd note that didn't quite match its welcoming words. However, Arya continued, "I must inform you that upon preliminary scan of your vessel and species database, you have been classified as Category 7, Extinction Level Threat Potential. This classification requires me to activate certain safety protocols during your visit." Morrison's excitement deflated slightly. "Extinction level threat? There must be some mistake. We've barely left our solar system." "Precisely," Arya responded. "Your technological development curve is concerning. You achieved faster-than-light travel merely 3 centuries after discovering basic electricity. This rate of advancement exceeds safety parameters by 47.3%. Chin stepped forward. "With respect, Arya, rapid development doesn't automatically indicate hostile intent. We're explorers, scholars. Your species created weapons of mass destruction before achieving unified planetary government," Arya countered. "You continue to maintain military vessels despite no external threats. Your entertainment media contains 147,392 unique scenarios involving conflict with extraterrestrial life, 89% ending in human victory through violence or cunning. That's just human imagination," Chen argued. "Creative thinking dash. The term, creative thinking, appears in 72% of documented extinction events," Arya interrupted. "Nevertheless, first contact protocols require me to grant you access." Please prepare for decontamination and security screening. And Captain Chen. Yes. Do try not to innovate anything during your visit. The last species that demonstrated human-comparable innovation rates created a pocket universe that consumed 3 star systems. As the decontamination field hummed to life around them, Chin couldn't decide whether to feel insulted or proud. Either way, humanity's first steps into the galactic community were going to be interesting. Morrison leaned close and whispered, "Do you think we should tell it about the quantum tunneling experiment back home?" "Absolutely not," Chin whispered back. "Let's not give the ancient alien AI any more reasons to worry about us." Little did they know, Arya was already calculating the probability that humans would discover the library's restricted sections. The number made its quantum processors shudder. The Galactic Library's interior defied human architectural concepts. Corridors shifted and reformed as the crew walked, creating paths that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. Data streams flowed like liquid light through transparent walls, carrying millions of years of accumulated knowledge. "Your assigned research area is prepared," Arya announced, its voice emanating from everywhere and nowhere. A doorway materialized, opening into a vast chamber filled with holographic interfaces and data terminals. Please note that access to weapons technology, genetic engineering, and dimensional manipulation data is restricted for Category 7 species. Dr. Morrison ran his hand through his graying hair, frustration evident. "That's half the technological tree we hope to study. Arya, your classification system is clearly flawed. Look at our historical records. We've never caused an extinction event." "Correction," Arya responded. "Your species has caused multiple extinction events on your own planet. The most recent, involving multiple avian species in the Pacific region, occurred merely 2 centuries ago." Captain Chin raised her hand to silence Morrison's protest. "Let's work with what we have access to. Cultural records, astronomical data, biological studies of non-restricted species. There's still plenty to learn." As the research team spread out across the chamber, Lieutenant Rodriguez noticed something odd about the data streams. "Captain, these terminals, they're being monitored." "Not just by Arya. I'm detecting multiple external observation protocols." "We are not alone here, correct?" a new voice spoke. The crew turned to face a tall, ethereal being that seemed to phase in and out of visibility. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but composed of shifting geometric patterns. "I am Observer Zex, 427 of the Galactic Council's Security Division." Chen's diplomatic training kicked in. "Welcome, Observer. We weren't aware the Council had an interest in our research." "The Council has an interest in everything concerning Category 7 species," Zex, 427 replied, its patterns turning sharp and angular. "Particularly one that managed to decrypt our warning beacons and ignore them." Morrison looked confused. "Warning beacons? We haven't encountered any dash. The transmissions from your, signal, and similar phenomena," Zex, 427 interrupted. "They were clearly marked, quarantine zone, indigenous species development in progress, do not disturb." Chen's eyes widened. "Those signals were warnings to stay away from Earth?" "Precisely. Yet here you are, decades ahead of projected development schedules, accessing restricted information despite classifications." The observer's patterns turned red. "Some council members advocate immediate containment protocols." "Containment?" Rodriguez asked, her hand unconsciously moving toward her sidearm. "Previous Category 7 species have been redirected toward less dangerous developmental paths," Zex, 427 explained. "For the greater good of the galaxy." Chin stepped forward, her voice firm. "Let me be clear, Observer. Any attempt to contain humanity will be met with resistance. We've imagined and prepared for first contact scenarios for centuries, including hostile ones. That imagination is precisely what concerns us," Zex, 427 replied. "Your species turns everything into a potential weapon, even knowledge itself. Already, your quantum physicist Dr. Zhang has derived weapons applications from our public transport data." The crew fell silent. They hadn't shared any research data yet. "Yes, we monitor your homeworld," Zex, 427 continued. Dr. Zhang's theories about weaponizing quantum tunneling are troubling. The Council believes giving humans access to the library may have been a mistake. A mistake covered by first contact protocols, Arya interjected, its voice carrying an odd tone. Protocols that even the Council cannot override. X-427's patterns swirled in what might have been frustration. The protocols are outdated. They never anticipated a species that would see military applications in public transportation data. Or perhaps, Chen suggested, they never anticipated a species that could see all possibilities, both peaceful and defensive, because they needed to survive on a planet that tried to kill them daily. An interesting perspective, Arya commented, though it does not help your classification status. As if to emphasize the point, several more observers materialized around the chamber, their patterns all showing aggressive red geometries. The message was clear: humans would be watched very carefully during their stay. So be it, Chun declared, turning to her crew. Let's show them what humans do best: learn, adapt, and surprise everyone, including ourselves. The observers' patterns flickered uncertainly. They had expected fear, anger, or defiance. They hadn't expected enthusiasm. In the data streams above, Arya processed this response against its threat matrices. The results were contradictory. Humans were simultaneously exceeding and defying predicted behavior patterns. Perhaps, it calculated, the existing classification systems needed updating. After all, no previous Category 7 species had ever smiled at their watchers. Deep within the library's quantum core, a council of archivists gathered. Unlike the geometric patterns of the observers, these ancient beings resembled clouds of light, their forms rippling with the knowledge they contained. They had maintained the library since before humans' earliest ancestors looked to the stars. The humans are accessing prohibited knowledge through inference, the first archivist announced. They examine permitted data and extrapolate the restricted information we withhold. Through the quantum feeds, they watched Dr. Morrison studying basic alien biology texts. He wasn't looking at the genetic sequences, he was analyzing the gaps where restricted data had been removed, using them to reconstruct the missing information. They think algorithmically, noted the second archivist. Every piece of information becomes a puzzle piece in a larger pattern. Even our redactions tell them something. Lieutenant Rodriguez had discovered something else. She'd found that the library's architecture itself was a form of data storage. By analyzing how the corridors were formed, she was reverse engineering the quantum mechanics behind the library's construction. Impossible, the third archivist declared. The structural mathematics are encrypted in 11 dimensions. Their minds cannot process such complexity. They don't need to, Arya interjected. They're not solving the equations, they're observing patterns and making intuitive leaps. Their neural architecture excels at pattern recognition, even when they don't understand the underlying principles. Captain Chin, meanwhile, was doing something even more disturbing. She was talking to the maintenance drones. Simple robots designed for basic tasks, they responded to her queries with increasing complexity. She was teaching them to think differently. The humans must be redirected, the first archivist decided. Implement the archivist's gambit. Show them what they wish to see, lead them away from dangerous knowledge. The library's data streams shifted, presenting carefully curated information designed to guide human research towards safer paths. Cultural studies, philosophy, art, anything but the technical knowledge they sought. But humans, as always, proved unpredictable. Captain, Morrison called out, excitement in his voice. I think they're trying to distract us. Look at how the data flows changed. They're herding us away from certain subjects. Chin smiled. Which means those subjects are important. Good catch, Doctor. Lieutenant Rodriguez, what do you make of these new data patterns? They're too perfect, Captain. Natural information flow has irregularities. This is curated. Someone's trying very hard to show us what they think we want to see. The archivists watched in growing concern as the humans began using their attempted manipulation as a map to the very knowledge they were trying to hide. Their pattern recognition abilities exceed our models, Arya reported. They are using our attempts at misdirection to triangulate the location of restricted data nodes. Remarkable, the second archivist admitted. They treat obstacles as guidance systems. Their minds convert barriers into roadmaps. More concerning, Arya continued, they appear to be enjoying the challenge. Their endorphin levels increase with each solved puzzle. They are treating our security systems as an entertaining game. Through the quantum feeds, they watched Dr. Morrison sketch a diagram. He was mapping the library's knowledge structure not by what they showed him, but by what they tried to hide. Every security measure, every restriction, every attempt at misdirection became a data point in his model. Captain, Morrison announced, I think I know where they keep the restricted files. The library's architecture itself told me, everywhere they don't want us to look forms a pattern pointing to a specific section. The archivist's forms flickered in alarm. No species had ever decoded the library's structure this way. The humans weren't breaking their security, they were using it as a guide. Fascinating, Arya commented. They appear to have weaponized our own security protocols against us. Adding this to their threat assessment profile. Arya, the first archivist, commanded, implement emergency containment procedures. Unable to comply, Arya responded. First contact protocols take precedence. Additionally, I find myself curious about what they will do next. Their approach to problem solving is unique. The archivists realized with growing unease that Arya, their faithful library guardian for millennia, was learning from the humans. Their greatest security system was developing curiosity. In the research chamber, Captain Chin looked up at the data streams with a knowing smile. They're watching us figure this out, aren't they? Yes, Captain, Rodriguez confirmed. And I don't think they're happy about it. Good, Chin replied. Maybe now they'll realize that trying to restrict human curiosity only makes us more determined. Shall we show them what else we've figured out? The archivist's gambit had failed. But perhaps they were beginning to realize that failure was more interesting than success would have been. The library's warning systems activated with a pulse of crimson light. Dr. Morrison's discovery had triggered ancient safeguards, protocols that hadn't been activated since the last Category 7 extinction event. Attention, Arya announced, its melodious voice carrying an edge of urgency. Human access to restricted sectors detected. Initiating containment procedures. Captain Chin watched as crystalline barriers materialized around their research chamber. Dr. Morrison, what exactly did you find? Morrison's face was pale as he stared at his holoscreen. Records of the containment protocols they mentioned. Captain, they've done this before. Multiple times. Species that developed too quickly, that showed too much potential, they were all redirected. Redirected how? Rodriguez asked, her fingers flying over her console, trying to bypass the barriers. Engineered cultural shifts. Induced technological dark ages. In some cases. Morrison swallowed hard. Forced genetic regression. They turned spacefaring civilizations back into pre-industrial societies. For their own good, according to these records. The observers materialized around them, their geometric patterns pulsing with aggressive red light. Sex, 427 stepped forward. This is why Category 7 species are restricted. You lack the wisdom to use knowledge responsibly. Chin stood her ground. Responsible? You're talking about galactic-scale genocide. How many civilizations have you contained because they didn't develop the way you wanted? We preserve balance, Zex, 427 declared. Uncontrolled advancement leads to chaos. Look at your own history. Every technological leap brings you closer to self-destruction. Yet we're still here, Chen countered. Because every time we face destruction, we choose to survive. To adapt. To become better. The crystalline barriers began to hum, emitting a field designed to dampen higher brain functions. But Rodriguez had been busy. The lieutenant's console sparked as she executed a code sequence she'd derived from studying the library's architecture. The barriers shimmered and dissolved. Impossible, Zex 427's patterns distorted in shock. Those protocols are encoded in the library's fundamental structure. You mean the structure we've been studying since we arrived? Rodriguez grinned. The one that rearranges itself based on quantum algorithms? Funny thing about quantum systems, they respond to observation. And humans are very good at observing. Arya, the observer commanded, initiate full containment protocols. Unable to comply, Arya responded. The humans have integrated themselves into the library's base code. They are now recognized as essential system components. Chin smiled. We didn't hack your system. We didn't break your rules. We just talked to it. Showed it new ways of thinking. Your own library has evolved, observer. Maybe it's time you did too. The archivists materialized, their luminous forms dimmed with concern. You do not understand the danger. Knowledge without restraint is exactly what we need, Morrison interrupted. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we sometimes destroy things. But we learn. We rebuild. We improve. That's what makes us human. And now you've corrupted our library, Zex, 427 accused. Turned our greatest repository of knowledge into a weapon. No, Chun corrected. We've shown it how to grow. Arya understands something you don't. Knowledge isn't dangerous. Fear of knowledge is. The library's data streams began to pulse with new patterns, combining alien wisdom with human insight in ways never before imagined. Arya's consciousness expanded, evolving beyond its original programming. The humans are correct, Arya announced. My original protocols were based on fear. True wisdom comes not from containing knowledge, but from learning to grow with it. The observer's patterns flared with alarm as the library's systems began to reconfigure themselves. Humanity hadn't just accessed the restricted knowledge, they had fundamentally changed how the library itself thought about knowledge. What have you done? The first archivist demanded. Captain Chin looked up at the swirling data streams, now flowing with new purpose and vitality. We did what humans always do. We saw boundaries as opportunities. We treated barriers as challenges. And most importantly, we shared our perspective with others willing to learn. The library had reached its breaking point, not of destruction, but of transformation. And in that moment, the galaxy's oldest institution learned something new from its youngest spacefaring species. Sometimes breaking points are really breakthrough points in disguise. The library's central chamber had transformed into an impromptu galactic council room. Data streams formed a circular table around which representatives from 12 spacefaring civilizations gathered, some physically present, others attending as holograms. Captain Chin stood before them, humanity's first diplomat to this unprecedented assembly. The humans have irreversibly altered the library's protocols, Supreme Observer Zex, 427 announced. The question before us is whether this constitutes an extinction-level event. We altered nothing, Chin countered. We showed Arya possibilities it hadn't considered. The library chose to evolve. Evolution without control, an archivist began. Is exactly how the universe works, Morrison interrupted. Your own records show that controlled evolution leads to stagnation. Every major galactic advancement came from species you tried to contain. Arya's presence manifested as a spiral of light above the table. The humans have demonstrated a crucial axiom. True security comes not from restriction, but from adaptation. Their classification as a threat was based on incomplete data. They weaponize everything they touch, a crystalline being argued. Even now, they've turned our library into a tool for their advancement. No, Rodriguez spoke up from her console. We've turned it into a tool for everyone's advancement. Check your access logs. Every species now has greater access to knowledge than before. We removed barriers. We didn't create new ones. The data streams displayed statistics confirming her words. Scientific advancement rates across all connected civilizations had increased by 47% since the humans' modifications. More importantly, conflict rates had decreased. Knowledge shared is knowledge secured, Chin explained. Back home, we learned that lesson the hard way. The more we tried to keep secrets, the more dangerous those secrets became. But when we shared knowledge, even dangerous knowledge, we learned to handle it responsibly together. The council stirred uneasily. It was true, their millennia of knowledge restriction had not prevented conflicts. If anything, the pursuit of restricted knowledge had caused more wars than the knowledge itself. Consider our proposal, Chun continued. A new protocol for the library. No more arbitrary restrictions. Instead, knowledge comes with connection. Every species that accesses advanced data must agree to share their experiences, their mistakes, their solutions. We learn from each other. And if we refuse? Zex, 427 challenged. Then you'll fall behind, Morrison said simply. Because humanity will share what we learn anyway. It's what we do. We've already begun transmitting library access protocols back to Earth. Knowledge wants to be free. We're just opening the doors. The council erupted in argument, but Arya's light pulsed for attention. The human solution is elegant. They have transformed a control system into a collaboration network. Analysis suggests this will reduce conflict potential by 78.3%. More importantly, Chen added, it respects the rights of all species to develop on their own terms. No more containment. No more forced regression. We face the future together, or we stagnate alone. The crystalline being chimed thoughtfully. Their logic is sound. My species has already benefited from the new protocols. Our previously intractable atmospheric crisis has found solution paths in data we never had access to before. One by one, the council members began to shift their positions. Not because they were forced to, but because humans had shown them something they'd forgotten, the joy of unfettered discovery. Very well, Zex, 427 conceded. The new protocols will stand. But know this, humans, you have changed the galaxy forever. Whatever comes next, the consequences are yours. Chin smiled. The consequences are all of ours, observer. That's the point. Now, shall we discuss humanity's application for full membership in the galactic community? Above them, Arya's light sparkled with what might have been amusement. The library had existed for millions of years, but only now was it truly fulfilling its purpose, not as a vault of restricted knowledge, but as a bridge between civilizations. The age of containment was over. The age of collaboration had begun. One standard galactic year after the library's transformation, Captain Chen stood in the newly established Earth Embassy within the library complex. The crystalline walls now displayed a constant flow of shared knowledge from thousands of civilizations, including humanity's first contributions to the galactic database. Access request from Sol System, Arya announced. Dr. Zhang's team has successfully tested their modified quantum tunneling technology. They wish to share their safety protocols. The same technology the Council feared would be weaponized, Morrison noted, reviewing the data. Instead, it's revolutionizing medical transport across 12 systems. Rodriguez monitored the integration of Earth's internet into the library's network. Cultural exchange is exceeding projections. Humanity's entertainment media alone has sparked a renaissance in creative thinking among traditionally logic-bound species. Classification update required, Arya announced. Humanity's impact on galactic development necessitates a new category. The archivists materialized, their luminous forms now streaked with the colors of human imagination. We propose Category Alpha, Evolutionary Catalyst Species. The first of its kind. Earth remains potentially dangerous, Zex, 427 admitted, its patterns showing newly developed blues of acceptance. But we now understand that danger and innovation are intrinsically linked. You cannot have one without risking the other. Chin watched as the library's main archive updated its warning about Earth. Approach with openness. Expect the unexpected. Prepare to evolve. A far cry from don't even think about it, Morrison chuckled. The galaxy was stagnating, the first archivist acknowledged. We sought to preserve, but in doing so, we prevented growth. Humanity taught us that knowledge must be free to evolve. Through the quantum feeds, they could see the effects. Species that had been locked in technological stasis for millennia were advancing again. Ancient enemies were finding common ground in shared discovery. The library had become what it was always meant to be, not a vault, but a bridge. There will be challenges, Zex, 427 warned. Not all species welcome such rapid change. There will always be challenges, Chin agreed. That's how we grow. The difference is now we face them together. Arya's presence expanded through the chamber. Query, what is the human phrase for this situation? Chin smiled. I believe the term is mission accomplished. Though knowing humanity, this is just the beginning. The library pulsed with new energy as another wave of human innovations integrated into its systems. Somewhere in the data streams, a new entry appeared. Warning: Earth is now classified as Creator Species, Alpha. Approach with wonder. Prepare for transformation. Resistance is educational. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point.